Welcome back to Stories in Motion. Today we're going to be taking a look at the story of Little Red Riding Hood, or originally known as Little Red Cap. And again, to touch base on the first video, this is a prominent story taken from the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl. Everyone who saw her liked her, but most of all her grandmother, who did not know what to give the child next. Once she gave her a little cap made of red velvet. Because it suited her so well, and she wanted to wear it all the time, she came to be known as Little Red Cap. Okay, now let's apply this to our own lives. For some, you found a physical gift on the playground in something that caught your attention and you gravitated to. For others, that was not so simple, but maybe your physical gift was found in PE class or in simpler everyday things. In any case, the having or not having becomes part of your identity. Now getting back to the story. One day her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Cap, here's a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She is sick and weak, and they will do her well. Mind your manners and give her my greetings. Behave yourself on the way and do not leave the path, or you might fall down and break the glass, and then there will be nothing for your grandmother." Now, translating this to our focus on modern health journeys. We are asked to do a task, like Little Red Cap was, which can definitely be arbitrary if it's not connected to anything that's meaningful to us. And so the task does not become meaningful until it is connected to something higher or an ultimate. Like for Little Red Cap, it was her grandmother's health. But it also has to be tied to experience, not just logic. Continuing back to the story, Little Red Cap was told a rule: do not leave the path, or you may fall and break the bottle. The mother gives the reason, but the reason itself is also limiting. If Little Red Cap feels like she can leave the path without breaking the bottle, she bypasses the rule. In our health journeys, we are surrounded by rules, but if these rules are not connected to something higher, they can and will be bypassed because real life happens. The way to stay on the path is not just to connect to a vague goal like be healthier or look better, but to define what that means for you and why it makes your life better or more meaningful. "I will take great care," said Little Red Cap to her mother, and gave her hand on it. The grandmother lived out in the wood, half a league from the village, and just as Little Red Cap entered the wood, a wolf met her. Red Cap did not know what a wicked creature he was, and was not at all afraid of him. Now, in this instance, not being afraid may be more of a sign of naivety or cluelessness rather than boldness, because in this case, wolves represent largely danger, trickiness, or raw nature, which can be the untamed parts of nature or animals or even parts of ourselves, is a good way to think about it, as later works in psychology would discover more through concepts like the subconscious and the collective unconscious. So she is trusting appearance and words and not what is underneath the surface. So applying this, there are many modern day wolves, so to speak, when it comes to our health and fitness. But one of the biggest ones that can pop up is relying on quick fixes. Learning from the story, you cannot just trust gimmicks, but must look deeper. Losing 30 pounds for one person is not the same as for another. "Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Cap?" "A good quarter of a league farther on in the wood. Her house stands under the 3 large oak trees. The nut trees are just below. You surely must know it," replied Little Red Cap. The wolf thought to himself, "What a tender young creature, what a nice plump mouthful. She will be better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily, so as to catch both. So now considering this, not only will the wolf prevent you, in this instance, the wolves in your life, from attaining your duty or duties, but this may also affect those around you or those who you love. But in this case, Little Red Cap has yet to learn this. See, Little Red Cap, how pretty the flowers are about here. Why do you not look round? I believe, too, that you do not hear how sweetly the little birds are singing. You walk gravely along as if you were going to school, while everything else out here in the wood is merry. Little Redcap opened her eyes, and when she saw the sunbeams dancing to and fro through the trees, and how the ground was covered with beautiful flowers, she thought, "If I take a fresh bouquet to grandmother, she will be very pleased. Anyway, it is still early, and I'll be home on time." And she ran off the path into the woods looking for flowers. Each time she picked one, she thought that she could see an even more beautiful one a little way off, and she ran after it, going further and further into the woods. But the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked on the door. So get this, Little Redcap listens to the wolf. She's letting down her guard and letting something take advantage, such as those gimmicks that take advantage of us in our lives. She thinks it is not a big deal and she can still fulfill her duty. But each flower, or each gimmick for us on our health journeys, takes us further away from our goals and our duties, just as it did to Little Redcap. And this is especially true because the duty, or staying on the path, was not from herself, but it was given to her from her mother. So it made sense for her to get some flowers close to the path, because she still felt like she could fulfill the mission. Those flowers can be many things in our health journeys, from over-optimization, which is essentially making yourself feel guilty for not being perfect, to a cheat day gone too far, or even using exercise as punishment. Each can start out small, but lead you far from the path. The wolf lifted the latch, the door sprang open, and without saying a word, he went straight to the grandmother's bed and devoured her. Then he put on her clothes, dressed himself in her cap, laid himself in bed, and drew the curtains. Now the deceit of the wolf has come in full force, or has come to fruition. His trickiness has led to a consequence which Little Redcap is not yet aware, but soon will be. The wolf also puts on the clothes to continue to pass as something harmless, like picking the flowers. It's another gimmick that leads away from the path, further showing the trickiness of navigating health in the modern world. All of those wolves in sheep's clothing. She was surprised to find the cottage door standing open, and when she went into the room, she had such a strange feeling that she said to herself, "Oh dear, how uneasy I feel today, and at other times I like being with grandmother so much." Now her intuition is kicking in. She is becoming slowly aware that the encounter with the wolf may have had bigger consequences. This is like taking a couple of days off from planned or focused exercise, but getting further from the path by continuing to take more off days each week. The consequence of decreased strength, reduced cardiovascular endurance, and losing momentum towards your goal or goals, even if they are well aligned, can move in. And those are the bigger consequences. There lay her grandmother, with her cap pulled far over her face and looking very strange. "Oh, grandmother," she said, "what big ears you have!" "The better to hear you with, my child," was the reply. "But, grandmother, what big eyes you have!" she said. "The better to see you with, my dear." "But, grandmother, what large hands you have!" "The better to hug you with." "Oh, but, grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have!" "The better to eat you with." And scarcely had the wolf said this, Then with one bound he was out of bed and swallowed up Redcap. Now, at this point, the negative or tricky behavior is continuing. But still, like we do, Little Redcap is seemingly convincing herself that the danger is not yet immediate when she's walking up to the bed. She is not ready to accept what has become her new reality, and delaying this leads to her demise, just like delaying the fact of the health consequences in our lives further continues to make them worse. It is like when we convince ourselves that we can still make changes to our health starting tomorrow or the next day. The cycle continues because we are not ready to accept the pressing need enough to make a lifestyle or habit change. When the wolf had appeased his appetite, he lay down again in the bed, fell asleep, and began to snore very loud. The huntsman was just passing the house and thought to himself, "How the old woman is snoring. I must just see if she wants anything." So he went into the room. When he came to the bed, he saw that the wolf was lying in it. "Do I find you here, you old sinner?" said he. "I have long sought you." Now we are introduced to a new character. This is essential because a new force is now necessary to redeem the situation, being that Redcap is unable to help herself. Sometimes neglecting health or pain or symptoms long enough leads to a place where outside help or changing course is needed. For instance, someone who develops back pain by way of neglecting form or avoiding proper rest needs to change the way they exercise. They need an outside uh, force change or a routine change to now come in. They can't just keep doing the same thing. They can no longer stick to the same routine. An outside routine or a plan must arise. This is the new character. So it's not only just about getting another person as outside help, but also ensuring another strategy for yourself. Then, just as he was going to fire at him, it occurred to him that the wolf might have devoured the grandmother and that she might still be saved. So he did not fire, but took a pair of scissors and began to cut open the stomach of the sleeping wolf. When he had made 2 snips, he saw the little red cap shining, and then he made 2 snips more. And the little girl sprang out, crying, "Ah, how frightened I have been! How dark it was inside the wolf!" And after that, the aged grandmother came out alive also, but scarcely able to breathe. Now, quick action and wit was needed on the part of the outside character. It was not just simply a matter of getting something new, but utilizing it. This is like using a new piece of tech, like a step tracker, or even just using paper or an app to track your workouts or calories or certain habits. If it does not actually help you make those changes, though, it is a character without power, cool as it may seem. It's like the huntsman walking right past the house. Cool character, but he didn't do anything. Redcap, however, quickly fetched great stones with which they filled the wolf's belly. And when he awoke, he wanted to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed at once and fell dead. So now this is kind of showing the more, gruesome parts of the story, but that are still important to the message that the Brothers Grimm stories are trying to convey. Little Redcap now has learned and took action quickly to overthrow the thing that once devoured her, Wolf. We must realize that just because we have overcome one health challenge, there are many others of similar and different shades that lurk. For example, we may make progress in getting better at not indulging in cravings, but that willpower may not last forever, and other things like exercising less can still affect anyone at any time. This is why we all need support or safeguards for ourselves and for our health journeys as a whole. We are now at the end of the story. Then all three were delighted. The huntsman drew off the wolf's skin and went home with it. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine which Redcap had brought, and revived. But Redcap thought to herself, As long as I live, I will never by myself leave the path to run into the wood when my mother has forbidden me to do so. Now, considering all of this, Little Redcap, and hopefully we ourselves have learned through this story that health is a duty, like directions the mother gave, but it's also a vehicle for meaning, like what Little Redcap experienced and now connects with regarding her grandmother and the huntsman. So may this story provide us not with just short term motivation, but also long term insight that keeps us moving in the right direction on our health journeys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this episode of Stories in Motion. If you have any story requests, please go ahead and put them in the comments. But again, thank you all for your time, and I hope it was enjoyable and was something that can give you some new insight into some symbolism and meaning that can help you along the way.